So we have 4 verses remaining from chapter 3. Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. So Arjuna inquires about what is the thing that forces one to act against his own will, as if a force, as if it is forced upon him. And Krishna answers that by saying it is the lust. It is the lust that is born out of contact with material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, which is the all devouring enemy of this world. This is the real enemy, Krishna says. Now, further, he explains. So, the point is, our real enemy is not outside, he is actually inside all of us. And what is the enemy's name? It is the lust. Huh? Just like a warrior, he conquers the world outside. The spiritualist wants to conquer his inside, meaning the enemies from within, the enemies like Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Madamatsarya, right? So these are all enemies that are within us. And actually, all our feelings are determined by this, right? So these are our true enemies. And through the process of yoga, primarily Bhakti Yoga in this Kali Yoga, one can conquer these enemies. So and that is easily achieved by what we did till now, chanting. Chanting helps us eliminate all these unwanted things from our heart. What are those things? Lust, greed, anger, envy, false prestige. These are our true enemies. And primarily Krishna says lust is the root of all. Right? So lust means not just lust for the opposite sex, lust for anything. Lust is basically a desire to gratify one's own self. The opposite of word lust is love. True love means one is ready to sacrifice for the happiness of the other. See the definition of lust and love. Lust means the center is our sense gratification, means my happiness is the key. In any relationship, if my happiness is the center, that is lust. If the other's happiness is the center, that is love. That's why I mentioned the true love in this world can be understood by the relation between the mother and the baby. That is the only true love that is considered to exist within the material world. Because just like mother is selfless, not expect anything from the baby, baby cries, she doesn't respond, say thank you, or being grateful. No, sometimes children grow up and they say, oh, what did you do for me, right? We all have experience with that. So that is true love. Love means sacrificing oneself for the happiness of others. So that's why the so-called love stories of this world are not really true love stories, because the beginning of it begins with attraction, material attraction for the other opposite sex. So it's not really true love. Later on, uh, you know, later on it can transform into true love when they actually sacrifice for each other. One helps, wife and husband. The true love is experienced when they actually grow old and you know go through all the challenges of life and hand in hand. You know, then true love appears. That is true love, because when one loves other, they want to serve them. Right? That is the way it is understood, or it's experienced. So when you say I love you, what does it mean? It means that I am ready to serve you. That's what it means. When we have no intention to serve, the words are just words, right? It has uh, no bearing or no weight or value for it. Only when we are, you can say, I love you, but if you don't do anything to stand by that words, it's literally just a word. It has no no strength or weight behind it. So Krishna says the real enemy is lust, means self-centered desire to enjoy oneself, right? Enjoy for oneself. That is the main problem. That is the main enemy of this world. That's the root cause, and everything else follows after that. So this I think we covered this. Yeah, we are covered up to 40, and then Krishna explains about how lust covers the living entity. Primarily three levels. One is fire covering smoke, mirror covering mirror, dust covering the mirror, and embryo covering the womb. Fire and smoke. Smoke is a very small, very lightweight covering on the fire. This is experienced in the body of human being. So the lust can be easily eradicated in a human body through practice of yoga. It's very easy. Relative to, say, an animal, animal's lust is far more deeper. So that is like dust covering the mirror, right? It's thicker, and you can't see yourself in the mirror. So animals are also very low in their consciousness. So yeah, so that is the second level. And third level is embryo covered by the womb, right? A baby in the womb is completely covered, thick covering. So that is experienced by living entities like trees. Trees, their consciousness is very low. So that is the third degree of covering. And so these are the three levels of covering Jiva goes through when they appear in the material world. Yeah. So thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust. Eternal enemy. As soon as you get rid of this enemy, you don't live in this world anymore, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire, right? Which burns like fire. Life after life, life after life, it continues with the Jiva. It burns like fire. So why the word burns like fire is used is because in a fire, if you add ghee to it, what happens? It only increases. So lust is also like that. If you supply ingredients to it, it will only increase. So if somebody has lusty desires, if you try to satisfy them, it's not going to go down. Oh, I should satisfy if I feel like that. No, if you do that, then it only increases. So we should be very careful about that. Right? So 40th, yeah, from here we will cover. Indriyani manobuddhir अस्याधिष्ठानमुच्यते एतैर्विमोहयन्तेश्च ज्ञानम् आवृच्य देहिनाम्. Yeah, can anyone read for me? Uma Mataji, can you read?
Yes, Prabhu, I can read.
Yeah, sure.
The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are sitting places of this lust. Though through them, lust covers us, zeal knowledge of the living entity, and bewilders him.
So Krishna is first informed us about the real enemy. What is the real enemy? Lust. Lust is not like an object. Oh, it's not like it's in the. It's not like a physical thing that is in the mind or somewhere. It is a subtle element, right? Not even elements. It's a subtle, subtle thing. Let's say, right? So where does it sit? It sits in senses, right? We all have senses, eyes, nose, all these senses. So we experience lust through these senses. And then mind, it sits in mind because senses give all the inputs to mind. Mind is a repository of so many lusty desires. And then intelligence is the decision power, so it covers even that. So these are the places where lust sits. What does it mean? What does it mean when Krishna says lust is reposited in these places? It means that when you engage these things, senses in this world, right, to gain the knowledge, one has to be very cautious because one can undergo lusty feelings, right? So through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So it confuses him. It misdirects him, and he goes through a lot of challenges in life. So Prabhupada's purport: the enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul. So Krishna already told our real enemy is lust, and Prabhupada is saying, so enemy has captured strategic positions. What are the positions? Senses, mind, intelligence. These are the strategic positions in which lust has covered us. And therefore, Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. So we may wonder why yogis in the past days were staying in a in a remote area and avoiding the worldly people. All these cautions they were taking. The reason is this is the reason because they want to make sure all these senses are in proper control. It doesn't mean that we need to go out so that we can conquer them. Bhakti yoga doesn't ask for that. Bhakti yoga is so powerful that even as a grihastha living in cities, we can still practice this. Mind is the center of all activities of the senses. And thus, when we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. Right? As soon as we hear about gulab jamun, immediately what happens? Our mind fills with so many experiences. It reminds us about, you know, oh, if that gulab jamun has some ice cream on top of it, it only look, so yummy. Like that, mind, combines ideas on how to enjoy that object as soon as possible, right? So, and tongue immediately salivates. So all these reactions come in our body right away as because mind started acting as soon as you give an idea, immediately mind starts acting on the idea, and it recollects all the past experiences, yeah, to on how to enjoy that object. When we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification, and as a result, the mind and senses become repositories of lust. That's how mind and senses become repositories of lust. Next, the intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Now, the decision goes to intelligence whether to eat the gulab jamun or not, right? Suppose one has diabetes. Intelligence decides, hey, you have diabetes, you should not eat. And then mind says, no, you don't know how sweet that gulab jamun is. You must eat it. There is no more chance. If you don't eat it now, you'll not get it. So mind pushes for that experience. Intelligence says, no, it's not in your good interest. You're going to be in big trouble, like that, right? So there is always a constant war between. So the decision power is given to intelligence. If suppose mind overpowers intelligence, means your desire to eat overpowers intelligence, your decision power. So that's why we say, right, uh, when crisis comes in life, we act emotionally, we don't act discriminatingly, meaning we don't use our intelligence, we use our mind, our our emotions. So mind is the repository of emotions, right? It has the past experiences. So logic takes back seat when we are emotionally surcharged, you see. So that's how mind conquers intelligence, when intelligence is weak, right? Oftentimes people go through this experience, right? Like first you blurt out, you express your anger, and then think, oh, why did I say that? So intelligence kicks in late many times, because emotions take over the situation. So we have to be cautious, because Krishna says all these are all repositories of lust. You know, lust is covering all these areas. Next, the intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor to the spirit soul. Spirit soul is the jiva, right? So lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify with the matter, and thus with the mind and senses. The spirit soul thinks, it identifies with false ego. False ego means all of us considers ourselves to be, I'm an engineer, I'm a son of so and so mother and father, I belong to this Indian city, I belong to this state. So these are all identities we give to ourselves, right? Are they our permanent identities? No, because today you are in one city, tomorrow you can be in another city, right? Today you have, I'm a male, you say, but you can also change your gender with the current technology. So like that, anything that is related to our body can be changed. So that's not our true identity. That's why it's called false ego, which gives us false identity. And so lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire false ego. Then lusty intelligence means the intelligence that is corrupted to enjoy, right? So it starts from bottom. Senses got attracted to the sense objects, right? There is a gulab jamun, our eyes and mouth started getting attracted to it, right? So the senses got attracted to it, and then mind keeps on giving good ideas on how delicious that is. That is mind, joining the forces in the same direction. And intelligence is the one to decide, hey, it's not good for you, you should not eat, right? But intelligence also joins mind, right? If mind conquers intelligence, senses conquered mind, mind conquered intelligence, intelligence conquers soul, soul falls prey, and it goes and eats the gulab jamun, right? That's how it works. But ideal hierarchy should be, the soul should be in control of intelligence, right? If you are a sincere practitioner of yoga, the soul is strong, soul is strengthened with spiritual practice. Then soul says, no, this is not good for me. Intelligence listens to it. Intelligence redirects mind, hey, this is not good for you. Mind tells senses, don't go after it. So senses stop going. So through the practice of yoga, one reverses the order of control here, right? So that's how spirituality helps us. How to conquer mind. We say, right? We hear about so many things, how to control mind, this and that. That all happens when we have spiritual practices in our life. Through the spiritual practice, one gets the discrimination, right? Through the study of scriptures like this. Now we learned about how lust resides in these places and how to conquer them, and how lust bewilders the living entity. All of that we learned just now, right? Now using this knowledge, when we start living in this world, we apply this knowledge. We understand, hey, lust can, our mind can senses can fall prey to objects of sense gratification, and mind should be mind can also fall, our intelligence should stop it based on what is good for our long term. So like that, when the hierarchy reversal is what that happens through the practice of spiritual life. So the soul becomes the soul controller. Right now, for most 99.99% of people of this world, the control is in the reverse order. They're defined by their desires, right? Meaning, they see some sense object. I walk on the road, I see something in a shop, I get attracted and I fall prey, I want to buy it. That's exactly the reason we see so many advertisements in this age and time and age, right? The whole online advertisement is such a trillions of dollars of industry. The entire large companies like Facebook, Google, all their revenue is based on this. Can you imagine? $1 trillion of revenue is dependent on, not $1 trillion of revenue, maybe like few hundred thousand, few hundred billions of dollars every year. And what do? They just project us different things so that we can, we can buy this, this iPad, or based on contextually, based on what we are searching in Google, they will, or Facebook, they'll determine, hey, this guy wants this. This is his profile. They know where your senses are wandering. What are the things you are searching for in life, right? Yeah, and their advertisements are catered according to it, and naturally they know, psychologically they know that senses are attracted to sense objects, so they exploit this weakness of, you know of the senses towards sense objects. So this is the exact thing that the whole industry is based on. Can you imagine that the entire industry is based on this attraction between sense objects and senses? So that's how these things work, right? But as a spiritually, inclined person, we all know the order of hierarchy here, and we should be very cautious when we lead our life in this world. We have to be very, very careful. Yeah. Lusty intelligence influence the spirit soul to conquer to acquire false ego. We read that. We'll read this now. Tasmat tvam indriyanyadau niyamya bharatarshava patmanam prajahyanam jnana vijnananasanam. Can anyone read for me? Bhaskar Prabhu, can you read? Bhaskar Prabhu, you are from India, right?
I can read Prabhuji if Bhaskar Prabhu is not there.
Sure. Yes, Mataji.
Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, this great symbol of sin, that is lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization.
Mm. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, O best of Bharatas. Bharatarshava, the word Bharatarshava is used, very powerful word. Bharatarshava means, a person who is like a bull. Right? Krishna is saying, you are Bharatarshava, you are like a bull, O best of Bharatas. In the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Right? We only, glorify in this world, we only glorify the people who conquered external things. The Alexander the Great, who conquered so many nations, like that. We hear about kings who conquered the world. But here we're talking about a person who conquered his inner senses, right? So Krishna is talking about, Krishna is here talking about a person who, he's encouraging Arjuna to become a person who conquers this enemy called, this sinful enemy called lust by regulating senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization, because lust is the enemy of, you know, enemy of self-realization. So, and it destroys the knowledge and self-realization. What is true knowledge? True knowledge is to understand that we are not this body, we are actually spirit soul. How do we know we are not this body, we are spirit soul? Because we understand the nature of the spirit soul is that Satchidananda, Satchit Ananda. It's eternal, full of knowledge, and full of bliss. How do we know that we are soul? Because we always want to be happy. Who doesn't want to be happy? all the endeavors we do in our life is to increase our happiness, reduce our misery, isn't it? That is the sole reason for anything we do in life. Because anandamayo bhyasa, that is the nature of the soul, jiva, nature of the soul, right? But the body is in the opposite order. Body gives pain in so many ways, mentally, physically. So there is a great incompatibility between body and soul. So we understand we are not this body. We're actually spirit soul, because we always want to live forever. Who wants to die in this world? Nobody wants to die, but they're all forced. Why we don't want to die? Because we are soul. If we are this body, we don't have such desire. But because we are soul, the soul's nature is to be eternal. Sat. Sat means eternal. So the jiva always wants to live forever and live forever happily. Anandamayo bhyasa, very, he wants to be happy. But because that's not happening, he goes through a lot of anxiety in this world. Why we feel anxiety? Because the world is not designed to be the way the soul is. Okay? Here you see everything is temporary, right? We all see relationships or families or homes, everything is temporary in this world. And our real enemy in this world is lust, because lust keeps us, makes us forget this knowledge, the one that I discussed just now, right? It makes us run after these temporary things of this world. When you run after these temporary things of this world, you forget that you are actually soul, right? You forget that, my main goal is to self-realization, not to continue to enjoy in this world, right? This body is there. Because I have this body, I have certain responsibilities. I do that. I do my job. I earn money. I take care of family. I do all of that. But those are all bodily duties. We don't have just bodily duties. We also have spiritual duties. The spiritual duties are to understand who I am and who is God, what's my relationship, what is the purpose of life. So we need to address both. And while doing that, we need to understand who is our true enemy. And so we can act accordingly in this world. So our true enemy is actually lust. So we have to be very cautious about that.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, Prabhuji. Jyoti Prabhu?
So, yes.
Yeah.
So when we describe the examples of lust, so we describe things which are very common. But let's say the other example I'm thinking about is about sense gratification. Is say I enjoy reading a book. Is that sense gratification? Is that lust?
If it is for your, it depends, right? I mean, we read technical books if, as part of job. But if you are reading out of a habit, which is not really good for your soul, then it's kind of sense gratification only. But if it is related to Bhagavad Gita, like that, then it's not. But again, it doesn't mean that we don't read any books. Sometimes we need to learn, be updated. So it's a balance. If we do too much of anything, that is kind of sense gratification. Like, you stop your duties and start doing reading books forever. Like some people I know are, they read novels like anything, right? If it is part of their, learning process to learn English, or, especially we see young children of our children, they read a lot of books, right? And we run out of supplies also many times, to give right books. Then we have to make sure they read, gray zone books. So gray zone means not too on the far too far, like, on the other direction where, they involve too many love stories and all. Instead of that, some simple fiction or some moral stories or stories about presidents. So like that we can, we cannot stop anything suddenly. We have to slowly change the habit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Is that answering, Prabhu?
I mean, it's very confusing though, obviously, because reading only spiritual scriptures when you cannot, if you enjoy reading other things like the fictions, then obviously doing a lot is sense gratification, but doing produce less is okay.
Yeah, try
That's
to, I mean, the way I would say is, spirituality is not like a prohibition all suddenly, right? It has to happen at a gradual pace. So if you are reading, like say, a lot, like few hours every day, try to see, you can reduce that and add Krishna. So we always say add spirituality slowly, right? And then gradually what happens is your taste changes. You want to read, you want to read spiritual books more. That happens gradually as as you learn Bhagavad Gita more and more, as you start chanting, Hare Krishna every day, then your desires change. So it naturally becomes your second nature to read and focus on spiritual books going forward, right? Slowly. Because it becomes more exciting as you learn more and apply more. So until then, continue doing whatever. Try to understand that that's not really good, not good use of your time. But if you have a compulsion to read right now, yeah, I would say, I wouldn't do anything forcefully. Anything you suddenly stop, you feel the craving, right? And then you feel like you're missing something. Like, you know anything that happens steadily and slowly, that is going to stay for long. So I wouldn't recommend anybody to, if they have a habit of reading all these other books, you don't need to change your habit fully. Begin adding to read Bhagavad Gita and other spiritual literature. I send some articles every day. So try to read these also, and slowly it will take care of itself. Try to understand that that's not very good for you. So that you can, because the why it's called sense gratification is because that's not really to the benefit of the soul. That's the main reason why it's not really. Is it for my eternal benefit? That's what you should ask, right?
yeah.
Is it going to take me towards my ultimate goal of life or not? And if you have a habit, if somebody has a habit, they don't need to stop it. They understand it first. Understand, right? First accept that yes, this is not in my best interest to have spent so much time in this. I'm spending like 2 hours. Maybe that should be going down a little bit, right? So by the way, I used to have certain habits, right? I used to play chess a lot when I was in college and all. I have a kind of addiction. Some games are addictive, and badminton. No, took me a while to actually get away from those habits. Uh, so it's okay. I mean, and I was doing chanting and all this for almost 2 3 years, and then I was playing chess. It went on for a long time, but then again, I eventually gave up. I didn't feel that drive to go and do that. Now also I play sometimes, but I don't have that craving. You see, I mean, I remember I used to, in IIT campus when we were in hostel. The first year, I'm like a regular person, right? I was not introduced to spirituality, and all of us, we used to have a hall where we have a TV, in the hostel rooms, the hostel block. There was a couch and a lot of chairs, and people, all the students would sit down and watch the television, especially during cricket matches, right? World Cup was happening in those 2005 or 4, at the time. Everybody, we all used to watch to, you know, India Pakistan match, and we all go through emotions. Like, if a Indian hits sixer, we used to shout and jump, dance. A lot of things we used to do. In the first year, I remember I was part of that, and in the second year, I'm changed completely. And I was attending Bhagavad Gita classes, and I used to pass by that same room, but I have no craving at all. I used to, really, I was completely shocked by my own transformation. Actually, I have no emotions anymore towards that. I mean, there is uh, definitely there is going to be some happiness if India wins, but that's not. I mean, I used to feel sick when India loses. And next day I used to wake up and very sad. That wasn't there anymore. I was like surprised by my change in my own attitude towards that game, that I was so in love, right? As a student, I was if somebody says anything against Indian cricketer, I used to be really upset. So because that's false identity. I am an Indian, and these cricketers are my Indians, and these are great people. Basically, identifying with the body, right? So those are the things. As you practice spiritual life, slowly all these things change. Your perspective towards life changes, right? And then naturally you will develop certain restraints. Does that
Uh,
help? Yes, go ahead.
is this question was about the kids or for you, Prabhuji, directly?
I mean, myself.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
Reason I'm asking is because my son also gone through the some transformation and just wanted to share for the kids also if there is any examples like.
Please share, Prabhuji.
Because my son used to read the Harry Potter as a child, Percy Jackson, so many science fiction books, and as a child, like Prabhu said, right? Here, a lot of kids do read a lot of fiction books and all these things as they grow up. And the challenge was what to give them reading as we entered into Krishna consciousness platform, and we realized that for the people who has a different taste, there are different kind of spiritual books available. So especially kids like stories, so like Mahabharata could be the good books to read stories, or there are so many Prabhus as wrote story like books, scriptures. They are not completely philosophy.
Yeah.
So it just starts with the good test that, oh, I want to read some stories. Yes. So that's how we started. We started giving him Ramayana storybooks, Mahabharata storybooks, Krishna storybooks. He started reading more. And then there is a Krishna book. There's more philosophy, but we always say, ignore the philosophy and keep reading stories, keep reading stories. So that's how the taste starts entering in your mind, saying, oh, I want to read more. I like that story. I like that story. So that kind of thing has changed. And even for me, I used to also like a lot of history. So I used to always like European history. And then I realized, look at the Indian history is more older than European history. But why we get attracted to European history? Because there is some kind of weirdness there. So then I started inclined to understand the Mahabharata stories, which has a lot of history. The Indian history is an amazing history. Just because we got bored, we studied so much that we don't want to even spend time looking at it. So that was used to be my earlier thought. But now on the spiritual platform, I said, we don't even understand our history properly, because history starts with whatever Krishna, the Surya Dev, and the whole planet expansion happens, and that history is nowhere except in Bhagavatam. If you read Bhagavatam, you will really understand the history, right, Prabhu?
Yeah, very, very good, Prabhu. I think you
Yeah.
shared a very good point. Thank you for bringing that point from your, the experience of Shivam, your son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Jyoti Prabhu,
Yes, Prabhuji.
I think he gave a very good clue. Actually, there are extremely nice books even within the realm of spirituality. You can get them. I can actually point you to a website where you can order, many wonderful books. I mean, the best book is, like Prabhu said, Bhagavatam itself is an amazing, network of, wonderful material. You can read, not so much focused on the philosophy, just the story part of it, and you will really relish it. Okay, because you are anyway have the taste of reading books, so definitely you can redirect to reading Bhagavatam, and there are many other books actually. I can point you to some of them. Prabhupada has given about 90 books before he left this world, so we can definitely discuss. Actually, today I have a hard stop at 6, so let's finish this
Yeah.
and two
Thank
more
you
verses.
for sharing your experience, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank you for
Very
sharing.
good.
Shiva Prabhuji. Thank you, Nitin Prabhu. Very good point you brought.
Thank
So let's actually finish this. We have only 2 more verses here. Today is going to be short and we'll have a hard stop at 6. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param mana manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu sha. Yeah, can one of you read?
I literally.
Yeah, that's
The,
good.
the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence.
So this is the working order within our body. So now Krishna told lust is your true enemy. Lust resides in senses, mind, intelligence. These are 3 places. Lust will not reside in soul. Soul is the pure. It cannot conquer it, but it can conquer the rest of the elements, right? So now he also gave the order in which they work. Working senses are superior to dull matter. What does it mean? Dull matter means, simple example is a gulab jamun we were talking about. Working senses are superior to dull matter. It means that if you have a gulab jamun in the fridge, gulab jamun doesn't itself come to you. Your working senses can go and conquer it, right? So that's why working senses are considered superior to dull matter. They conquer the dull matter. Dull matter means matter, like table, chair, fan. All of this is dull matter. No life. Working senses have connection with the soul, because you have within this body you have soul. Even working senses like eyes, nose, they're also made of material elements like earth, water, air, ether. Dull matter is also made of the same elements: earth, water, air, ether, fire, right? Material elements. But because the working senses like hands, eyes, they have connection with the soul within the body, they are empowered, are more powerful than the dull matter. So they can go and conquer the objects of this world. So working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. So between mind and senses, what is higher? Mind is higher. Why? Senses can go here and get things from fridge, but in mind you can think about what your mom is cooking in India, right? Or what your father is doing at this time. You can think about that. So mind can run faster, much faster than senses, much farther and faster, more powerful. So that's why mind is, called a coordinating sense. In 15th chapter, there is this 9th verse that talks about the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and senses of touch, which are grouped about by the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. This chapter is talking about how the living entity is born in this world. But anyway, we are not there. But the whole point is all the senses are grouped about by the mind. Mind is the center piece, is the coordinating sense. Coordinating sense means all the senses supply the information, mind processes it. And also mind is powerful because mind can run farther and powerful. So mind is considered superior to senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. Intelligence is the discriminating power. Mind can say, hey, it can, tell you to do certain things, go and enjoy this. But intelligence is the discriminating power. If you have a strong determination, intelligence acts in the right to take the right decision. But oftentimes the order of control is reverse in most people. So that's why matter conquers senses. Senses are matter conquers senses. Senses conquer the mind. Mind conquers the intelligence. Intelligence conquers the soul. Soul falls down. That's what happens in this world. We, last week we discussed the story of Ajamila, right? One who was attracted to a woman. who was having a lusty affair with another man. What happened? He saw the senses fall prey to the objects of senses. So the order was reversed. So the senses fell prey first, and then mind got conquered by the senses. Mind conquered the intelligence. He lost his discrimination power. He gave up his legitimately married wife, children, everything to just enjoy with this lusty woman, right? So the order reverses for most people in this world. That's exactly how the Google platform works, right? It shows the objects you can enjoy this, through advertisements, and you fall prey. You buy the car, and you just lose money, and then you later on you think, oh, why did I buy it, right? The order is reverse, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. This is the right order, but not exactly. CEO is the highest, Pune is the lowest, but doesn't mean that the order always works like that. In most people's case, the order is reverse. The soul is higher than the intelligence because all of these other things are material. Now, how so I'm trying to look for a picture which explains this. Yeah, so this is the hierarchy, right? For most people, the mind, intelligence, ego tries to use senses to enjoy the sense objects, right? So there are two ways you can lead your life in this world. Either use your intelligence, mind, to enjoy the objects of this world, or you can the soul and drag the soul to material platform. That's how you can do. Or you can take the help of super soul. So the super soul is God. By soul connecting with the objects of this world, it drags down the soul. The mind, intelligence, ego drags down the soul. But if the soul takes the help of super soul, he can actually conquer. Soul gets the strength, the nourishment, like you are chanting today. What does it happen? What happens when you chant? The super soul strengthens the soul. Soul with the extra energy, it can now control the ego, and ego controls the intelligence. Intelligence controls the mind. Mind controls the senses. Senses control the sense objects. Right? So that's how the why we chant, because through that process we are actually taking the power of the soul within ourselves. When you spiritualize, that's called spiritualization. Spiritualization means soul trying to connect with the super soul through the chanting or hearing the class. All of this is making the soul to connect with the super soul. When you do that, the soul gets the strength. When soul gets strength, the order gets reversed. Soul is in control. Ego is not in control. When ego is when ego is strengthened in the right direction, it controls the intelligence. Intelligence controls the mind, and mind controls the senses. Senses act properly. So Krishna is telling exactly the same thing. Let's quickly discuss this. So this is the order he says, and then evam buddhe param buddha samtabhyatmanamapana jahi satrum mahabaho kamarupam durashadam. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental, knowing oneself means the soul. Understand that you are soul. To the material senses, mind, intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. How do you conquer your enemy? By deliberate spiritual intelligence by actually controlling the senses, right? Through spiritual strength, like I said, through the practice of spiritual practices like chanting. Japa is what? It's not just, okay, I do it like a ritual. It is actually giving us the spiritual strength to conquer this insatiable enemy called lust. So the whole point is one should understand that he is transcendental to all these things, and one should study his mind by spiritual intelligence, and thus by spiritual strength conquer the enemy. Right? It's clear, right? Hope it makes sense, right? So Krishna, last 4 verses quickly, right? So Krishna told what is our true enemy. Our true enemy is our lust. And where does it reside? It resides in mind, senses, mind, intelligence. It resides there. And Krishna explained how you can conquer these things, not by submitting yourself to the desires of this mind, of the mind. Instead, through the spiritual practices, one can strengthen his spiritual intelligence, thereby conquer this, the desire to enjoy in this world, which is expressed as lust. Thus, you can conquer. So he gave the solution towards the last verse, right? We'll discuss more. This is a very interesting topic. But next 2-3 weeks will be extremely interesting. Do not miss. I'm going to summarize the classes, summarize chapter 1, 2, 3 in a very easy to understand, so do not miss these 3 classes. You will all like it. Okay. We will go through PowerPoint presentations. It'll be very nice fun. Okay. So we'll stop here for today. It's 6 o'clock. I have to attend something else now. We'll end here. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
See you all next
you.
week.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.